Well, hey everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of our draft preview. And let's talk about some of the positions as we go through. In fact, let's talk about all of them. We don't have a lot of time. This is the first time that there hasn't been a long build-up between declaring draft and then draft day, which is Thursday. So we'll talk about the position. There are 150 or so players who declared for the draft. That's a lot. Most of them are not going to be picked. There's, I believe it's 26 picks. The first round and the third round have 9 picks, and the middle round has 8 picks. This is the order of picking as we know right now. Might change and everything like that. But let's have a look at the positions and see who's sort of at the top of the echelons within there. This video is also brought to you by Panther Rugby Academy, providing elite playing and training opportunities for players throughout the South and a more extended version of the South. Panther Rugby Academy, check them out. So, loose head prop, number 1 on the jersey. Number 1 guy we'll talk about is Elias Garza out of Life University. Big, hard-running prop. He's really good in open field. Rather terrifying to deal with. Also got a few silky moves with ball handling. Able to make some offloads and good support work as well. I think he's one of the top guys. And there are a number of good front rowers. So that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to go first or even, the first 5 or 6. But I think he's going to be up there. The rest of the loose heads have a bunch of good players, or really good players, but there's sort of a yeah-but situation there. Some dark horses. Cole Steppenworth, I think, out of Penn State. He's very mobile, very fit, very interesting player. That's a possibility as well. One guy to keep an eye on is Cam Taylor out of IUP. And this is a theme that's going to come up a lot in the discussions about the draft. Cam Taylor I'm mentioning because I think he's an athlete. He played a lot of 6 for IUP, but really sort of tracks as a front rower as he goes on. But he played in Division 2. The Crimson Hawks, God bless them, didn't have a lot of challenging games, and they don't play a lot of games. So he's a little bit behind somebody playing in a higher division, somebody playing in NCR D1, and certainly somebody playing in D1A would be. So he's going to have to work at it. I don't think Cam Taylor breaks into the starting lineup the first year, but as you learned from the previous video, that's not always the end of the story. So if he wants to put in the work and put in the time, yes, he can get there. And one more loose head would be Chad Tinney out of Lindenwood. I think that this is a guy who just brings a lot of aggro to his game. He's just tough to play against, not nice to play against. And I think that this is the sort of player, look, you're going to draft a player or sign him, if you're playing him, you're bringing him on to start with. You're probably bringing him on the last 20 to 10 minutes. And you do that, you want to raise the intensity, okay? He just gets you going and raises that level. I think Chad Tinney would be great at that. Let's talk about hooker. And I think hooker is perhaps the most interesting and deepest position in this draft. There are 5 guys, one of whom is really a flanker who I think should be playing hooker, who could go high in the draft. So let's talk about a couple of them. Campbell Robb, Central Washington. I think he's outstanding. He's got USA eligibility, even though he's from Australia, so he can qualify as a North American player. That's important, but you still got to work out the visa thing. This comes up every time, right? So we'll just sort of hit that first. You can qualify as a domestic player and still need a visa. If you are an American citizen, not a problem. If you are a permanent resident, not a problem. Got a green card, not a problem. But if you have been coming to the United States to play college rugby and your college time is over, you've got about a year where that visa extends, and then you got to have a job and sponsorship for the job. And sponsorship as an athlete, especially in something like rugby, requires like a P1 visa, which requires you to be high level in a certain way. It really helps if you play on your national under-20 team, helps even more if you were named an All-American, a major All-Star, and helps even more if you played for, say, the USA Under-23s. Campbell Robb did play for the USA Under-23s, so he's somebody that I think he qualifies through parentage or grandparentage, being born in the United States. That's qualifying for the United States national rugby team. That's qualifying for being a domestic player. That doesn't automatically get you a visa, residency visa. So there are details that come in there. That's the issue. Okay. Campbell Robb. So why do I mention Robb? Very good in the basic stuff. Winning scrums, winning lineouts, throwing in the lineouts, scoring tries on mauls, being powerful in contact, working around the pitch, and being a leader. Great. That all works. So he just basically checks all the boxes there. Adam Chadwick out of Life University is very similar in that he's got great open field skills, same as Robb, great in tight, set piece, that all works, knows what he's about. The domestic player status thing is a little bit more of a question for him. I think he has potentially one more semester, one more year, something like that. So there's a little bit of a question on that, but Chadwick is very much a talent in the number 2 jersey. One of your dark horses then would be, you know what, not even a dark horse. Nick Sidorowicz out of Mary Washington, interestingly qualifies for Brazil, played for Brazil in Rugby League. How about that? Powerful, hard hitter, good runner. You need to be that to be playing Rugby League. Signed with Blackheath in England and has been playing there, and a lot of good positive notes from his coach over there, but he wants to come back to the States. Very interesting, cerebral player, high work rate, good fitness, been working very hard to improve some of the areas that he thinks he needs to improve in, and a good thrower, all of that stuff, very important. So Sidorowicz is another one to look at. Another one, Adam Bilbo, out of Penn State, very experienced, comes through Xavier High School, very mobile, fit guy, gets around the park. David Scollin out of Guelph. Again, you know, the visa thing still works with the Canadians as well, so that happens. He's a Canadian under-20 player. So another player to look at that could be draftable. And then the dark horse really would be Hayden McKay, who we'll talk about as a flanker. Really lists himself as a flanker. He's not a very tall guy. Gets around the field really, really well. Great runner with the ball. Excellent tackler. And hooker is sort of his secondary position. Let's talk about him as being a hooker. I think that might be his pathway. So you've got, 6 players are really, really strong at this position. That's what makes it very interesting to me for a hooker. This video is brought to you by Next Phase Rugby, which is an app that allows high school rugby players to connect with college rugby programs around the country. Those programs can be school supported, club, all kinds of different ones. 450 are already on the app, and thousands of collegiate hopefuls are also on the app. Download the app if you're a college, or if you are a high school player looking for a college, go to nextphaserugby.com. There's a discount code for the premium level for high school players at the bottom of the screen, and good luck with your college search. Tighthead prop, I think, is another deep position, starting with Connor Devos from Lindenwood. Powerfully built, set piece all the way. And I think for your tight head, number one, you got to think about just winning scrums and driving them all. He does that very well. Just that added angry edge, rated really, really highly as a prop, and just a lot of fun to watch. Alongside him would be Charlie Walsh from Cal. I think it's an either or situation there. Walsh probably a little bit better, a little bit more savvy in the open field. Walsh, an American passport holder, but played his school rugby in Hong Kong and was a major part of Cal's championship run last year. Just both of them powerfully built, strong guys, know how to scrum, understand that that's their number one job, play strong defense, and disrupt things. Not the only people out there. Jayurgi Bachuku was from Hofstra, then was drafted by New York, didn't sign, and then went to grad school at Dartmouth. Very smart guy, Albanian, but qualifies for the U.S., Just a super interesting guy, super strong. I think he's highly motivated. I think he'd be a really good pick for someone. Again, you want to nail down depth at Tighthead, which everybody needs. Be a good pick. Don't forget about Damon James. He was at the MLR Rising. I think that for him, the question might be fitness. How's his engine? But he loves the contact. He's a great pick and go guy. He's a great guy to finish off drives right down by the line, and has played very well for Mount St. Mary. So that's another one at Tighthead, and I think a number of good Tightheads coming out of collegiate rugby this year. Will Sherman, I think, is for sure the best true lock in this group. And I say that partly because of his height, 6'5", very good in the line out, and does the stuff that you need to do. Good in the scrum. Very quick, a pretty agile guy, a lot of experience playing rugby, played at East High School in Utah before going to UCLA. All-American. I think that he's kind of the total package on that they have available. Number one pick 2 years ago was Rick Rose, and he was sort of the total package. The knock on him at the time was, had he played enough games? Because he St. Bonaventure didn't play 15s in the spring, but he very, very experienced, well coached throughout his career. And also he was 6'8", which really helps, right? And a special person. So that's kind of thing. I feel like Sherman carries that leadership type of aura about him. So very good. But there are others. Cal Coakley for St. Mary's. Not quite the height that you need, but he plays much bigger than he looks. Runs the line out for St. Mary's. Just goes full on all day. I have a very strong feeling they're going to move into the back row if anybody signs him, which I think they will. But he's great in the open field. Good tackler, high work rate. Eddie Van Heerden is a little bit taller, 6'4". I think really can be helpful for a team. I like him a lot. Liked him back when he was playing lock and number 8 for the Charlotte Tigers. He is another player who can do the things in the open field, but more just understands that his role is to blast people off in rucks and pick and goes near the line, things like that. He's very difficult to control on those pick and goes. So again, the caveat is I'm not going to talk about everybody at every position. And then there's one, is he a little bit of a flyer maybe for a team? Some of the numbers look really good. Jake Morrison from Alabama, 6'7", so that turns people's heads, right? He's a big boy, up in the high 200s. From what I've seen, has got a turn of pace. That's good. Has some skills. Can pass. That's good. Dominant in the line out? Maybe. But playing against a little bit smaller opposition from Alabama in D1AA. Not to denigrate it, but that's just, hey, what it is. Needs to use that size to be dominant. I think there's still some time to learn to be dominant. But I think that Morrison could go, probably not in the first round. You never know that size, though. You can't coach someone to be 6'7". If I left you off, I'm sorry. There are a couple of good players I've left off here, just because I'm almost repeating myself. Jack Warobel from University of Vermont is the one person I sort of circle as the other guys. And the reason I put him in there, he's tall, he's got a good frame, he's strong, he played for the NCR All-Americans out of Vermont. Yes, Division II. I get that. Potentially in one of Division II's strongest conferences. So used to some level of competition, but Division II. And I said that there's a jump up. It's very difficult. But I think very interesting. First of all, very smart guy, mechanical engineering major, coachable, I think, willing to learn, and he's the youngest guy in the draft. He just turned 21. I think that's important. If you've got a guy who might be a project, you need to say, all right, we're going to have to spend some time getting him to play maybe in one of the club leagues in the fall, and then work through the academy system or the training group and all that stuff. And we're not really expecting for him to be a starter for us this year, maybe even not next year, but we are working on this guy. Well, if he's 26, you're losing window, but he's got a long window. And this video is also brought to you by Panther Rugby Academy, providing elite playing and training opportunities for players throughout the South and a more extended version of the South. Panther Rugby Academy, check them out. Also brought to you by Irish Rugby Tours. Touring is a great way to expose your players to the global nature of rugby. Go to Irish Rugby Tours. They don't just do Ireland, they do all kinds of different countries: Spain, Portugal, New Zealand, South Africa, the UK. That's just a smattering of what they can do for you. Go to irishrugbytours.com. Looking at flanker, and I'm going to separate out the number 8s here, not just sort of a general loose forward. Looking at flanker, we don't have a lot of guys who are like these tall, rangy number 7s. Coakley, who I just mentioned in the lock section, Kyle Coakley, could well be that guy. I'd put him at 7, to be honest. In a pro team, I'd probably put him at 7. We do have a couple of other guys in there. Batista Samponet, for example, a classic number 7, really. The overseas situation, do they have to get a visa? How long do they have to get a visa? Do they take up a foreigner spot? This is always a consideration. So there are players that I don't mention, and that's very possibly the reason why. A couple of other guys that I've already mentioned, Hayden McKay, yes, can play flanker, would do just fine at flanker. I listen to him as a hooker. He's a hooker flanker. He's a 6'2", and I'd look at him as a 2'6", but can do all those things. He's just not super tall, but powerfully built. And then Van Heerden, tall, rangy, really interesting kind of guy. Maybe not an 8, but certainly a 6 possibility. So that brings me to 3 flankers that I think, yeah, have a look at this guy. Noah Araujo out of University of San Diego, previously St. Thomas, U.S. qualified, so he's a domestic guy, a pretty good 6/7, gets over the ball, turnovers, creates those turnovers, good runner with the ball, a good defender, powerful guy. So sort of a classic one. The question, again, hasn't played at the D1A level, hasn't played at the NCR D1 level, but has played for 2 very, very good teams at the D1 AA level. After that, I'm looking at T.I. Vavau out of Central Washington. This guy carries all day. If you're looking to make the gain line, give it to Vavau. He was huge for them, especially in some of their games that they won by small margins. The game against UCLA, he kind of took control of that at key moments. He puts me in mind way back in the old days of like Olo Fafita, Tasimunga, those guys who just like give him a little pop pass and have him burst onto it and go. He does other stuff too. But you're looking at this and say he's a carrier. Tavita Mapa out of Life University is kind of, for me, the opposite guy. He's Vavau not carrying the ball. He can carry, and he can distribute and all those things, but his number one thing is he runs in and just smashes people, knocks them into next Tuesday. Great. Get a guy who can do that. You want a guy who can do that? That's very useful. Remember, we're managing resources. You look at your team and say, hey, when we come on late in the game, what do we need? Do we need offense? Do we need defense? Do we need physicality, intensity? You probably need all of those things, but bring on a guy who comes on who can play. I've got 3 guys I want to talk about for number 8. I'll start with the sort of the dark horse, Matt Beacom out of University of Tennessee. I think he's a bit of a project. The way I watch him run, and he's not always like in super control of his body, sort of all over the place. But Beacom has pace, and he reads the game well, and he's a bit of an opportunist. At well over 6 feet, he's got good size for himself and solid in the lineout. He does a number of things very well. Yes, D1 AA player, maybe a project. Again, maybe a guy a year away or so. But, that's the sort of decision you make. Having said that, there are 2 guys who are far and away at the top of the list, number 8. Yeremia for Cal. really interesting story in that he was a rugby player when he was young from New Zealand, but moved to Southern California, has lived in Southern California for a long time. So he qualifies as a domestic player because of how much time he's spent in the United States. We're going to need a visa. And the issue is I don't believe he played for USA at any major level. So, you're going to have to push for that. That'd be interesting. However, athletically, great upside. Played football in high school. Played football in college. 1 year at Cal. It's his first season of rugby in 6 years. And he was the starting number 8 on national championship team. 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", really good big guy who is great on the 8-man pick, and is learning the game. Again, he's humble enough to realize that he doesn't know everything because he played it when he was 16 or whatever. So a really interesting choice for someone. They're going to have to make some compromises, but I think the payoff will be good. And then the guy, perhaps fewer compromises to be made, and I think he could go very high, is King Matu out of St. Mary's. Why? Well, first off, domestic guy, no problem there. Punishing runner, 6'4", in the 240s, very difficult to bring down, really good on the 8-man pick. Also reads the game very well, is a decision maker, and somebody who just sort of scans the field to do things. And St. Mary's plays kind of an open field, decision making enabled game. That's how they play. I think that's really good for someone to just be able to come to a new situation and say, yeah, okay, whatever we're doing, not just, we only did it this way and this is the way we're doing it. So I think King Matu, he's up there.